안녕하세요. Welcome and thank you. Did I get it right? I love learning new languages. My name is Britt. I've been at Google for 9 years. All of that time within our search technologies and working with our artificial intelligence and ML capabilities. I'm thrilled to be here. With me is my peer, Lutz. Kohler, Lutz.
안녕하세요. Nice to meet you. I'm also 9 years with Google. I had been covering the Asia region for the last 18 months before Google joined us here in the Singapore office, and happy to be here.
So we know we're the last session of the day. Let's make this fun, exciting, and also make it quick. We're here today to talk about how you can think about unlocking your enterprise data, leveraging the power of cloud search and machine learning. And in this session today, there's 4 components. We're going to talk about the market opportunity at large and the market opportunity for you within your company. We're then also going to talk about and share the architecture of how cloud search and ML works. We'll share customer stories. How would you apply this? How are you going to get a return on investment in deploying cloud search? How are you going to either drive your productivity or reduce your cost? It's all about what can you produce for your CFO and your board of directors. We're then going to talk about how then you go about it. How might you evaluate the technology so you can very quickly get to a go or a no-go decision. I'm sure many of you are thinking about going forward with an AI platform strategy and thinking about how can I apply cognitive functionality within my organization to drive process automation, or if you're in automotive or manufacturing, it could be robotic automation. And so when you're thinking about kind of this strategy overall, it's definitely a big business, and you can see the numbers here. But what's important as a manufacturer or automotive or a retailer is how are you going to apply this in your business? Yes, it's great technology, but it really starts with cloud search. So think of search as the cornerstone in your strategy. So the first step is how do I gather that information? How do I then find that information? And then run that through models so I can actually process automation through the cycle. Lutz, do you want to tie that in with our mission statement?
Thank you, Diana. So hopefully everyone in the room has heard what Google has been all about during the last 20 years, to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. The way how we've done it, however, has dramatically changed over the last 20 years. The way we present the information you are looking for on the web is completely different. Just years ago, if you asked Google a question, we had been providing 10 blue links, and it has been all up to you to find the right answer to your question. Today, we are much more efficient in providing the relevant information to your question by giving you an immediate answer, as you can see on the screen, or by adding so-called knowledge cards on providing even more information on the question that you asked. But what about the information that lives in silos, sometimes for 50 years or longer, behind your firewall? And maybe the reason you're here today is that you have challenges finding the right information in all these information silos that have lived for years in your company. And here are just some example figures from market researchers that say, as much as search on the internet is solved today, it's still an unsolved problem for enterprise data. And with the introduction of cloud-based systems, it has become even more complex. Just about a year ago, the first enterprise product that Google brought to market, a yellow box called the Google Search Appliance, had been around for 15 years. But what sense does it make if more information does no longer live behind your firewall, but lives in cloud providers like Amazon, Microsoft, or Google? So this is one of the reasons we stopped by the end of this year, after 15 years, providing and supporting the Google Search Appliance, and about 10 months ago, added Google Cloud Search to our portfolio, because we think the advantages of a cloud-based service are immense. So the idea is of Google Cloud Search to bring all the power of Google that you hopefully use several times a day next to KakaoTalk and all the other tools, and provide it and make it work for your enterprise data. But there's one thing that is very different. Per definition, all information on the internet is public. And this is the way how Google.com works. You're able to find all the information in our index. In your company, this is very different. You should only find the information that you are allowed and entitled to see in the source system. It would be an absolute no-go to even show you a search result about a paper that should only be visible to your board of directors or a small part of the group. So one thing that we added to make search working for your enterprise is security and authentication, and have deeply embedded it in the product. So how does Google Cloud Search work in some easy steps? So on the left part of the screen, you can see your data sources. And as already said, these data sources might be behind your firewall. It might be a database. It might be a Windows file share. Or they might already live with any public or private cloud provider. And Google Cloud Search uses what we call a connector framework. A connector is a small piece of code that sits as close as possible to the data source that you want to make searchable. And the connector has two jobs. The first job is to understand the logic of what we call the schema of this data source. Because the way you might have implemented your SharePoint will look very different to what we might have seen from other companies. And the second job of the connector is to understand, as already said, the security and access permissions to make sure if something is sent to the index, it always needs to know who, which user, or what group is allowed and able to access the data once they send a search to Google Cloud Search. To show the same in a little bit different meaning, again, on the left on the picture, you see all your existing data. In the middle is the cloud-based index. And on the right are different possibilities to integrate cloud search within your company. Because you might already have an existing intranet solution that you don't want to replace, but you want to empower the search within this intranet. Or you might already have an existing search for your engineers or for your support employees. And you can integrate cloud search by embedding JavaScript code anywhere you like to make searching as efficient, as easy as possible for all of your employees. And in order to make it even easier, Google Cloud Search will understand natural language, and it will automatically interpret a question that your employees ask in natural language and translate it to a query that Cloud Search will understand. And in the near future, it will do even more. What you've seen at the beginning, what we do on the internet with knowledge cards or so-called answer cards, this will soon be a feature that we will add to Google Cloud Search. We already test this feature for some months in our own intranet, and it works very well. So the idea is to power your employees and give them back valuable time to work on their primary task, to work with clients, to work with customers, or maybe go home earlier and listen to some K-pop. When we originally introduced the product, we did not switch on the machine learning services because we wanted to have a baseline and understand how well the product works without machine learning services. So after a couple of months, about 5 months ago, we activated the machine learning services. And the activation of the machine learning services led to some dramatic improvements. Like you see on the right, the number of searches without result dramatically dropped by 30%. That's a huge number that makes your employees more efficient and successful. And one way how we achieve that is to add so-called related concepts. And this is something that we already understood from the web. If you look for a product like pain relief, it will automatically understand all the other terms and search for these terms to make sure your employees find all the data they are looking for. And you will soon be able to train that system using your own language, your own company internal data to make it even more efficient. About 70% of all searches within the Google intranet are to find the right people, to find someone with the right knowledge, for example, to search for a product manager working on Cloud Search, or to work on a support contact working on Google Mail. And that is one of the reasons why at the moment we have something called People Search in beta test, and we are going to roll it out in general availability very, very soon, that you are able, by leveraging Cloud Search, to not only find the right people by searching for their name, but by integrating all the data from your Active Directory, from an HR system like SAP or Workday, to find all people based on their knowledge. And if Diana and I work together on a document, this document will be amongst the top results because the system will know by what we call an interaction graph that we work together on this document. So, but what about data that is what we call completely unstructured? A picture, a video from the latest training you've done, something that your service desk has recorded with the latest customers. Google Cloud Search, by leveraging other Google Cloud products, is even more powerful and makes all unstructured data, pictures, video, audio files, available for searching or being able to translate into any language pairs available. You can not only make structured data available for search, but also all unstructured data. And this is something very nice, and at the end we have a short video that will briefly show how this works. With that, over to Diana.
Thank you, Lutz. So to summarize from a technical perspective, what are the core benefits that you're thinking of taking away by implementing Cloud Search? Number one, especially in this region, is language. So we support all of the languages and have the same file index that is used by Google.com. So we support Korean, Mandarin, Cantonese, Vietnamese. So you name it, we cover it. So language is very important, and it's native to the platform. The second that Lutz mentioned, and I think this is a big issue that comes up with customers, and we'll go through it when we go through how to evaluate, but it's what's the security look like? And we actually have security at an access control at a document level, as well as at an application level. So there's multiple layers of hierarchy that we can go through on access controls. And then the administration. As Lutz mentioned, we used to have an appliance technology, but as we're moving into kind of cloud world, we're trying to really focus how can we automate processes so we're getting better business results, but also improving our productivity and reducing cost. So it's zero administration, and it's a fully managed service. Our connectors. So Lutz mentioned the connector framework. We have 100+ connectors in our framework. If it's not here, it doesn't mean we don't have it. This is just a subset of the list we have. But we can connect into Office 365, SharePoint, your Active Directory, Box, Slack Enterprise, SAP, Documentum, Jive, Jira, and the list goes on. So from a technical standpoint, we can do it. And if you have a very unique data source, it typically takes about 4 weeks to actually build a connector, and it's built on open source. So customers. So actually, Cloud Search has now been out almost a full year, so not 10 months. It was announced in November last year. We have significant momentum with very large customers, and I'm sure many of you represent the same industries up here. Retail, manufacturing, automotive, digital native, gaming, financial services, aerospace defense, airlines, oil and gas, and the list goes on. So we have typically a reference in almost each different vertical. So now I'm going to talk through a couple of stories and give you a couple of examples of how you might apply Cloud Search. So the first one is Whirlpool. Whirlpool is one of the largest appliance manufacturers based out of the United States. Their largest competitor might be in the room, Samsung. Whirlpool had a challenge. Their engineers had to go into 21 different data sources to find designs or piece part information as they were building new products. The challenge was finding that information was difficult, and it slowed down their development process. So it took them 21 months to launch a product. Samsung, their competitor, was at 15 months to launch a product. So Whirlpool had some challenges. So what they were able to do is apply Google Cloud Search on top of their data sources, give their engineers a unified perspective to actually find that information, and guess what? They reduced that time from 21 months for new product launch to 18. Still not as good as Samsung at 15. But the other value that Whirlpool got out of this is a proliferation of parts. And if you're in manufacturing, one of the biggest challenges is if you have a new part that you develop, it now has to go into inventory, it goes on the shelf, and it goes into the warehouse, and there's a carrying cost associated with that. Whirlpool was able to reduce that carrying cost by implementing Cloud Search by $100 million. So there is value to your CFO and your board of directors in implementing a solution. The user interface you can see here is very simple. So it shows the engineers at the top. Am I looking for change control documents? Am I looking for drawings? Am I looking for the knowledge base? So it's they call it Search PRQ, very quick application. And as Lutz mentioned, the other thing that they're doing is now they've applied people search to it. So they can actually now look for an expert. If I'm looking for a Whirlpool model, a specific model, and I want to find maybe that specific engineer, or I want to find the product manager or somebody within customer service. Next customer, Broadcom. Broadcom is based in the United States as well as Singapore, and they are global. They are one of the largest semiconductor firms in the world, and they have grown by acquisition. So if you're not familiar with Broadcom, they had significant acquisitions with LSI, Semantic Security Division, Brocade, and recently CA. Challenge that they had is they're now procuring and bringing in new engineers from different companies, and they're now putting those engineers all in the same team, and they're trying to run as one company. And what was happening is their data for the engineers was living in Box, living in LifeRay, living in Oracle, and living in ServiceNow. And so they've given this really nice view, and it's on a mobile device, so the engineers can very quickly find what they need. Electronic arts, gaming is very large here in Korea. Electronic arts is actually using it, and we have several other gaming companies we're starting to work with, really focusing on how do I accelerate the engineers that are actually developing the code, how do I reshare code, and how do I optimize that? So whether that's going into Slack Enterprise, doing an index around that. For electronic arts, they had some custom applications, and they had some Confluence, and they were using a technology called LumApps for their internal portal from an intranet perspective. So again, their application was enterprise search, but it's focused on an engineering use case. Then we have Harley-Davidson. I'm sure many of you have a motorcycle that's probably sitting right out in front of your house. But Harley-Davidson, if you think about this, the application and the use case is the dealer portal. It's the extranet. So if you're not in automotive, this would also apply if you're in manufacturing or others, anytime you have a partner that needs to get secure access. So Harley-Davidson needed to actually go out and say, okay, I need to send my dealers, my 30,000 dealers, they need the latest pricing information, the latest financing documents, the latest financing data, they need the latest warranty information, they need the latest service information, and promotional information. And so they were able to do this through the portal using Google Cloud Search. And then what about your brand? So one of the things Google.com has is the power to really power your website. And so give you a few examples. Acer is using our technology today. They've launched it for 60 countries, 20 languages. They're based out of out of Taipei. Genentech Roche, biotechnology company based in Basel, Switzerland. And then Alitalia, the airline. And we have several others as well, but these are just to highlight several. And then if you're a governmental agency, one of the ones I like to highlight is the Food Aid Organization as part of the United Nations. So they've got 20,000 users going in today to access that information, and they're going through a lot of their frequently asked questions, and they're going through their legal documentations and publications from a research standpoint. So a really good use case if you're a governmental agency and you're thinking about how might I apply this technology. And then lastly, the last example here I want to share with you is the how might you, and a lot of folks are talking about how do I improve customer service by implementing bot technology and use chat bots. And if you're thinking about something like that, especially if you're in retail or in customer service, there's a great opportunity for you to integrate cloud search with Google Cloud Dialogflow and then bring that in to the chatbot. So we're coming kind of to the last slide as we're talking about, okay, that's great, Lutz and Diana, so what? How do I go about evaluating this? So we've been working with customers over the last several years, and over the last year specifically for Google Cloud Search, we've narrowed this process down to a 4 to 6 week process to get you to say no or yes. And it's really how do you make a go or no go decision. And we want to make it so it's easy for you to boil it down and bring different components to your leadership team. So the first step is, what is that use case? You know, I want to connect to ServiceNow, and I have an intranet that we need to refresh. Is your CFO going to fund that? No, it's not a priority. They got 20 other projects. But if you sell to your CFO, I'm going to improve our engineers' time by 20%, and I'm going to reduce our cost, or I'm going to accelerate our time to actually get product to market, that's of interest. So it's really defining what is that business use case that we're trying to solve for. And then what we'll do with Google and one of your partners is we'll work with you to actually do a discovery workshop. So that's a 2 to 3 hour how do I think 10x about my business, and how do I ideate and really understand what are those business workflows, and also get to the technical specs of what you need to accomplish. Because every company is a snowflake. Everybody has their uniqueness around kind of what their environment looks like. And then after we go through that process, we typically do a checkpoint with you and your executive team with a summary doc that says, here's what we heard, here's the value of search, here's the budget amount, here's how long it would take to implement, do we want to continue? And so it's helping you get through a decision point. And then what we do is, if that's a yes, we'll then really go into the detail. And what the key is this prototype. So we'll do this business and technical fit. On the technical fit, it's a prototype. Your partner will actually take a subset of your data and really work on some business search, some search flows, but really focus on what's that user interface and what's that design, and have people test against it. And then if that's a go, then we continue on and we go through the project plan, the investment model, and final sign off. But the objective again for you is, how do I make a decision more quickly and make it efficient, but also make it of value, right? How do I make this a priority, or is this a priority in my organization? We believe it's a yes, and we've been able to work with our customers to help really drive that return on investment. And so we're going to sign off here. We're going to show you this video. Before we do, I just wanted to say, if there's any questions, we are here after. You can also reach out to me at the cocktail hour. My name is Diana Britt. My LDAP is DBRITT at google.com. So very easy. I head up all of Asia and Japan for Cloud Search. So happy to connect with you and also connect you with your local Google representatives as well. So with that, do you want to hit the video? Fantastic.
With so much information spread across different places, finding what you need can be difficult and time-consuming. What if all of the relevant information came to you right when you needed it? Let's take a look at an example of how this works in action. I'm Peter, a sales representative at a manufacturer of car parts and accessories. At the start of my day, I log into the Cloud Search portal, where I can quickly catch up and see documents I have been working on. Cloud Search reminds me about an upcoming appointment with Buckler, one of our largest resellers. To make sure I have all the correct information, I open my company's CRM application and check on the details for Buckler. Phil Coulson is listed as the owner and the primary contact. I remember taking notes during our previous meeting. To find them, I use Cloud Search, which is embedded within my CRM application and automatically performs contextual searches. Cloud Search found a document that I created after our previous meeting. Looks like he wanted some additional info on the tonneau cover. I need a video and a slide deck. All our product info is readily searchable both internally and externally using Cloud Search. What videos are available from marketing? I search for videos about the cover. They may be hard to find as it's a brand new product and may not be tagged yet. But not to worry. Google Cloud and Cloud Search work hand in hand by providing automated video transcription using Google's Video Intelligence service. Even though the video wasn't named properly, I was able to find the video. Now let's search for a customer slide deck in the marketing portal. Here it is. Last thing I need to do. In my notes, I see that Phil would love to have an exchange with an engineer. I remember receiving an email from Drax, the product manager, when the cover was launched. I use natural language for my query. Mail from Drax about tonneau cover, and Cloud Search automatically understands the context and the request. I found the message. Let's look at the sender's profile and see who works for him. Maybe someone on his team could attend the meeting. Wan Hee looks promising. Is she a subject matter expert? When looking at her profile, Cloud Search also services a patent where she is listed as an inventor, so she is clearly an expert. Once again, Google Cloud and Cloud Search have worked together, using the Vision API and OCR to detect Won-hee's name in a scanned image. Later, as I am leaving the meeting with Phil, he asks me when he can start distributing the cover and how many units are available. I already closed my laptop, but not to worry. I can use the Cloud Search mobile app to search the inventory database. It shows me that there are more than 5,000 units in stock. Cloud Search helped me close my deal, acting as an easy-to-use personal assistant in context at every touchpoint. Cloud Search, the power of Google Search for your business.
감사합니다. Thank you so much.